Hi there. As a Senator, I serve the people of Queensland and Australia. And I want to discuss our shared need for, first of all, improving industrial relations to protect honest workers and employers. And secondly, the bigger picture and a vision for a secure future. And I will shine a light on the Industrial Relations Club, known as the IR Club. It is the root cause of most industrial relations conflict in Australia. We have listened to workers, casual and permanent, right across Queensland and Australia. From Thursday Island in the north to the Hunter to Tasmania, from Brisbane in the east to Perth in the west. We have listened to union bosses and union bodies. We have listened to small and medium-sized businesses. We have listened to employer and industry groups. We have listened to the government and to the opposition. Now, I've worked underground at the coalface, literally, in 5 regions across Australia, managed mines and negotiated and introduced industrial relations changes improving safety, productivity and security. As a mining executive, I introduced the Australian coal industry's first radically new enterprise award, one that was proudly based on matching employees' needs and employers' needs. Our people, as a result, set records that stood for decades with extremely high worker retention and Australia's best safety performance for large underground coal mines. Now, listening around our country reveals that across Australia, people are hurting, people feeling vulnerable, afraid for their jobs, afraid of the future. Add to that, Australians are hurting from the economic fallout from COVID, with restrictions and lockdowns keeping us away from our jobs, businesses and loved ones. People feel confused, often feel despairing, even hopeless. Many feel powerless to improve their situation or their business, frustrated that this government didn't listen and just listens to the Industrial Relations Club, the IR Club. And people like Hunter Valley miner Simon Turner, crippled, exploited and discarded due to abuses proving the complete failure of current industrial relations laws. People are angry. The Industrial Relations Club, the IR Club, is alive and well. It keeps its members fat, well-paid and secure. Lawyers, courts, employer peak bodies like the Business Council of Australia, major union bosses, driven to perpetuate conflict so they have something to fix, a reason for staying in existence. Using complexity to conjure issues that need lawyers and union bosses to sort. But the primary workplace relationship between employer and employee has been shoved aside. The IR system is broken, and that's destroying Australian industry and exporting jobs to China. The Industrial Relations Club perpetuates artificial restrictions that needlessly destroy productivity and job security and suppress wages. Restrictions hurting workers and employers. The Building and Construction General On-Site Award, for example, is almost 150 pages long with 80 separate allowances on top of the prescribed wage schedule. Australia's cabotage, domestic shipping, is another IR Club casualty and guts our national security, sovereignty and tax revenue. The IR Club's other victims are small and medium-sized business, our economy's engine room. That's where the jobs come from. The IR Club insists on a one-size-fits-all from large multinationals with huge teams of lawyers through to small businesses. Queensland's 445,000 small businesses are now under even greater pressure as a result of the government's COVID response. And as a result of the IR Club, small businesses are left with complex, unworkable IR rules that are not fit for purpose. The IR Club is one reason why small businesses and honest big businesses are angry. Union bosses are rogue and not serving union members. And here's another new group that's angry. Listen to CFMEU's leader, Michael O'Connor, discussing his own union, quote, seriously divided, dysfunctional union. And he adds, that's pretty soul-destroying. His CFMEU colleague, Tony Marr, echoed these feelings and added bullying within the CFMEU. Just like recent years in the HSU, the AWU, the SDA, whose union bosses abandoned and stole from their members some of Australia's lowest paid workers. Union bosses signing enterprise agreements that cancelled award entitlements and underpaid and abused thousands of workers. Union bosses putting their pockets and personal political agenda ahead of members. And I get angry about that. because the reality is that many union members are paying union fees for no service, just like some of our major banks and financial institutions. Throughout history, monopolies have led to control, exploitation and abuse, from being beyond the law and out of touch. Poor management and lack of leadership is also rife in our country. From working and travelling overseas and from working in a high-risk industry that was mired in conflict, I see Australian management as generally being poor, lacking the leadership, the integrity and the strength of character, not treating and supporting workers as partners. Executives who roll over meekly in the face of activists, Greens and governments, surrendering meekly to ambit claims, political and industrial ambit claims. Company executives who contributed to the casual problem that backfired on them, apparently misusing the term casuals to deceitfully cut workers' incomes and entitlements. Worse, supposedly casual workers at BHP, Chandler McLeod Group, Anglo Coal and other employers tell of threats to their job if they dare raise safety issues. Does that tell people they're valued, respected, needed? Executives and managers who see people as a burden to be dealt with rather than as a human spirit to be unleashed, energised and supported. A short-term focus, lacking vision, lacking data and objectivity, lacking the ability and desire to engage, much less connect with people. Look at Hutchinson, for example, one of our largest construction companies. The ACCC is commendably taking them and the CFMMEU to court for allegedly agreeing to terminate the contract of an independent subcontractor who would not play the CFMMEU's game. Now, the Prime Minister himself describes the IR system as, quote, not fit for purpose, especially given the scale of the jobs challenge that we now face as a challenge, end of quote. A jobs challenge of the government's own making after failing to adopt Taiwan's successful practices for managing COVID. Who can forget the Dyson-Hayden Royal Commission's diabolical finding on union bosses? One Nation supported the government legislation to implement the findings, the Australian Building and Construction Commission, the ROC Bill, the first Ensuring Integrity Bill. Yet we could not support the government's ill-considered second Ensuring Integrity Bill. I've spoken in many places about Hunter Valley coal miners being exploited, abused and discarded as a result of the collusion between BHP, Chandler McLeod Labour hire firm and the Hunter Valley CFMMEU. It proves a complete breakdown of industrial relations and workers' protections. Workers lost entitlements and protections, safety, gone. Workers' compensation, gone. Accident pay, gone. Award pay, gone. Award leave, gone. Long service leave, gone. Employer, union, business owner, industry associations, federal and state governments, federal and state MPs, abandoned people. Victims of unlawful, unethical, immoral behaviour. And it continues. I have three aims for Simon Turner's issue, and the government needs to fix this issue to show its fair dinkum about industrial relations. The government failed to act on the issue of permanents abused as casuals, so it went to court after the Rosado decision was clear and understandable. Yet the government then misrepresented it as a threat to all businesses across Australia. Why? And the government knew about the casuals problem for years. Simon Turner himself told them. Will the government's resultant so-called reforms coming up have the effect of forcing the casuals into part-time work where they will lose their loading and force employers into unfair dismissal claims? What a mess the government has created through not addressing this problem when brought to it some years ago, 6 years ago. Will the government's attempt to define the term casual for minors destroy it for true casuals such as those in retailing? So let's turn now to people's needs and then solutions. Every Australian worker wants to know, is his or her job safe? Is it secure? Are workplaces safe? Are basic rights protected? Is there support when someone breaches industrial relations responsibilities? Is there fairness, compliance? And people want options, such as choosing who represents workers in a business, enabling continued growth of fresh new unions serving members honestly, choosing how and when workers want to work, permanent full-time, permanent part-time, casual, contractor, gig economy. People want freedom to express themselves in speech and through their work. There's nothing more high and more proud. We need an IR system that's simple An IR system that protects people's fundamental rights while removing artificial restrictions. An IR system that gives people options, freedoms empowering workers and employers. An IR system that is fair and treats all parties with fairness. An IR system whose reforms are based on data and facts and on people's needs, not on ideology, emotion, vested interests and politicking. An IR system that provides no-cost, speedy resolution of conflict, with responsible hiring and dismissal rules to prevent conflict. An IR system that protects and enables small business without unaffordable lawyers and delays, and one that protects workers. As a nation, Australia needs honest and sincere leadership. Government that respects people and is committed to overhauling industrial relations to bring it up to date and meet the needs of all involved, especially the workers' needs. And what is the point of IR reform if we continue to be crippled as a result of artificially high electricity prices? In manufacturing, cost structures, especially electricity, is usually a bigger cost than labour. Government honesty and removal of artificial restrictions on electricity supply would halve the prices of electricity and restore our national productive capacity. Comprehensive reform is needed across our nation, in tax, in government budgeting and economic management, our Constitution's competitive federalism, water infrastructure, water ownership, water prices and water reliability, family law reforms to remove the stress that eats people's hearts out 24 hours a day. We need a COVID recovery plan based on solid data and a combined need for industrial relations flexibility with protection for workers and employers. A plan to take us not just back to where we were last February. One Nation wants a recovery to restore Australia to world number one in per capita income, a position our country once held. We have the people, the resources, the opportunities and the potential to be number one again. We need honest, competent leadership, making decisions based on solid data and facts, with strength of character and a willingness to serve our country's people, to serve Australians. We need a Prime Minister who tries to do good, not just look good. One Nation protects workers' rights and knows that only employers, entrepreneurs, small businesses and workers create jobs. The government's COVID restrictions have done enormous damage. Yet the government-induced collapse is not an excuse to cut pay or job security. Instead, let's reform industrial relations together, properly. Thank you.